Almost all of us grew up with vivid memories of gathering around the television. For some, it was cartoon shows in the morning and kids shows in the afternoon. Maybe you remember your first color TV or your first flat screen TV. Well, we're proud to say Channel 4 was a part of it all as Utah's first television station. And tonight, we start counting down our 75th anniversary of being on air. We were the first TV station between Chicago and the West Coast. We were also one of the few stations that saved those delightful moments from the pioneer TV days. Craig Wirth takes us back to the very first night of TV in Salt Lake City, 74 years ago this week.
It was April 19th, 1948. Salt Lake City was about to get something only 12 other cities had that day: television. But it was so new the government called the station Experimental W6XIS. Meanwhile, Channel 4 had made and jerry-rigged and installed a transmitter. A tower was placed on the tallest building in town, the old Walker Bank building, and at 8 o'clock that Monday in April, our engineers of the day threw the on switch, and by golly, it worked. A hand-painted card flashed onto the screens of the couple hundred sets. That night, more hand-painted cards would be dropped in front of the homemade graphics system. They announced programs and advertisements. Now keep in mind this was so new, especially in the West, that the paper carried questions from people who might see this modern miracle of science thing called TV here at Channel 4. Will it broadcast on radio? No. Is my present radio adapted for television? No. Is it possible to tune television programs directly from distant cities? No, it will never happen. You will only be able to see your neighbor kids play the piano or the other neighbor kids tap dancing. It was all magic. But we knew from the first day that TV was swell. Here's how we knew. You see, the Deseret News picked the two greatest inventions that were seen at the 1948 State Fair: television and the Massago-Mat. Well, it doesn't get any better than that. Okay, you can find enough rope jumpers and people to draw funny faces to juggle your TV schedule around 3 days a week. But how are you going to put this stuff on TV? I mean, how do you run these really cool lights? The late Mark Hampson was on the crew that very first day.
We're all young guys. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have anybody to ask what to do because nobody knew what to do. So we experimented with everything.
So schools popped up on how to do this TV stuff. Oh, you could train for TV and radio electronics. And my favorite, radio, television, refrigeration, and air conditioning. Well, it's all about the same stuff. And the other issue, folks had to have something to watch all this on. That first day, you could buy about 3 TV set models, like the Admiral, for $299.95. And this is actually one of those TVs from April 1948. I guess since the knobs really didn't do anything, they just tore them out. But most had to see the Admiral set in a store window. You would gather around and watch, with people watching you. ZCMI had one in its window. George's Furniture had another. Come on down and see the first night of TV. And a tavern in Murray would get one in time for the fights. Oh wow, you could buy one for your own home and be so cool. You know, there were so very few TVs back then that the newspaper would do stories on those who had televisions, such as this one, a prize 1948, and people posed with their sets. And indeed, this is Mrs. Hiskey in front of an identical Philco TV. Now that's news. And we salute the viewers. And also, I salute those who worked here and were the TV pioneers. Craig Wirth, ABC 4 News.
That's a great photo there. And our story actually starts even earlier with some of the country's very first TV experiments. In fact, Craig says our first engineers put on a week of TV shows as early as 1939. So they did this by putting a camera in the second floor of a department store and transmitted the video to the first floor. Tens of thousands of people stood in line for hours to see this scientific wonder. Craig has pictures from that day and will show them the next week as we celebrate leading up to our 75th birthday. Really cool to just see all of those photos and just see how far we've come.
Oh, the history of the business